The bare bones. With your host, Dr. Mason West.
Welcome in to this episode of Bare Bones. I am Mason West, and joining me today, co-host Khari Thompson. Khari, how you doing?
Doing all right, man. Getting ready for from Thursday night football. Trying to juggle like 18 different things at the same time is all that. But once the football starts, get to lock in.
So you had your new show. Well, it's an old show, but it's kind of rebranded in a way. Bears Over Beers. How was that yesterday?
Oh, it was good. I had Jacob Infante and myself. So we go back a little bit, probably about 6 years, kind of interacting in the Bears space. And we've been on a couple of podcasts together. So that was good stuff. Ranted about Caleb Williams a lot in the offense. We are mainly just about how, stuff's a little bit overblown. Let's all chill out. Might have dropped an inappropriate joke or two based on, our guys' mutual history, but it was all good, all in good fun. And I did actually finish my beer by the time the 1 hour and 15 minutes was up, which I'm a slow drinker. So
I was going to say, I'd be like 4 in at the end of that. I don't know how you did one.
I'm an old man. I mean, honestly, like I drink really slowly. I don't down anything.
Well, I'm glad then, because in order to really keep an eye on the prize with this Bears season, you can't get too intoxicated because it'd be a little easy to get carried away.
Exactly. And listen, I'm fun after a couple of drinks, but I want to keep it an appropriate level of fun. I am a dad after all. I gotta maintain appearances.
Speaking of fun, what isn't more fun than a chart review where we're going to chat about a couple different storylines that peaked up during the week so far. It's actually a little bit of a quiet week for the most part. Forrest Buckner was placed on IR. That's really big, obviously, for the Bears going forward here. We'll talk a little bit about this more in depth later, but Leatu Latu, there was, as tweeted out, no sights of Colts defensive end Leatu Latu at practice out currently the last 2 days. But there are a couple quotes I want to throw at you and see kind of what your thoughts are on those that came from Caleb Williams and Matt Eberflus. So Caleb Williams said, "I'm always involved in communication issues. It starts with me in the center." Caleb Williams on what he learned after watching the tape. Number 1, communication. Number 2, making faster adjustments throughout the game. Other teams' job to try to confuse you, so making the adjustments quickly. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's interesting because I feel like the adjustments maybe have to the naked eye, like it seems like he's doing a pretty decent job, probably better than most rookies would be in terms of processing the game. That said, I think the adjustments can be made are making sure that you have the plan for when everything goes to hell, right? And I think maybe some of the adjustments there are thinking about the pressure packages that might be happening, who's picking up what, and I think making sure that everybody is on the same page so that you don't have A-gap pressure blowing you up every single play, because you can't really do anything against that. And then the other adjustment I would have is, I suppose I have 2 of them. Number 1, throw the ball to the target accurately. Let's do that more. And don't throw the ball across the field while you're rolling out of the pocket. Don't do that no more. No more of that.
Yeah, and sometimes you almost forget that Caleb is a rookie. Obviously, going from USC to the Bears is a big adjustment, and the players you're playing against, it's a big adjustment because you can kind of see the play you're talking about where he had that pick that was it was overruled. It ended up being a flag, so it didn't count. But you saw that rolling to the right, throwing across body, that a guy like I think it was Lassiter that may have gotten the pick on that one. He's a bit different than the cornerbacks you're going to play week in and week out at USC. But at the same time, too, in terms of communication and adjustments, Rome stopped on that play, right? He was probably maybe used to a quarterback in Penix, who he played with in Washington, who would not make that throw for better or worse because he doesn't necessarily extend plays, isn't known for his mobility. So A, don't make that throw, Caleb, but also B, Rome, the play is not dead when you have Caleb Williams as your quarterback. So yeah, communication adjustments everywhere.
Yes. And I think this is a matter of it's 2 games in, rookie quarterback, and some new pieces, particularly somebody like Rome, Keenan Allen also, Coleman Shelton at center. There's gelling that still needs to happen here. And I think while they got lots of reps together in practice, it wasn't always exactly this first group the way that it is right now. So give them time on the field, in practice, practicing properly, and hopefully we'll see this kind of stuff start to dissipate with time.
Speaking of that gelling, Matt Eberflus was on record a couple days ago saying the Bears are making no starting lineup changes on the offensive line. Good thing, bad thing, is there anyone that you would like to potentially see replaced in the O-line? Or at the end of the day, is that gelling that you just mentioned, is that more important in these next couple weeks where, the individuals, the teams you're playing are not quite as good as the Texans, for example?
Yes. I think at this particular point, I feel like it's a fine line for me because I don't love some of the effort that like Nate Davis is playing with. At the same time, if you don't play Nate Davis, he's going to waste away unless you're able to trade him. So it kind of behooves you to see if you can still get better play out of him. I feel like you got to maybe give this a little bit more time and see if it's just an experience thing, because 2 games is kind of a short sample size for that. Don't tell that to the Carolina Panthers. But I think now's not the time to make really rash decisions and just start shuffling people around because then you're restarting the cycle again. And then you got new people playing with people that perhaps they're not as used to playing with, and you got to get communication right with them again, right? So say you take Nate Davis out, you insert like Jatiri Carter, like whatever it is,
Matt Pryor.
Right?
Would be like
Yeah,
my choice
Pryor, yeah. Somebody like that. So you replace him, and then then you're adjusting again. And then if that doesn't work out, what do you do? So I think you give it a couple more games, and by week 4, if this really ain't it, and it's not it, I think that's enough time. That's a quarter of the season. So there you go.
I think that's a fair, measured approach, and probably how it should be. I'm all about that. As long as you're the coaching staff and the front office, and you can see even if you win games, right? Like let's say you beat the Colts, you beat the Rams, the Panthers coming up, and you can still say, man, we won those games, and you can still circle a position or 2 potentially on that line where you say an adjustment needs to be made here. But there is a couple plays in that Texans game where you saw, if you're looking at it from the quarterback perspective, the interior slices out to the right, and then you have your defensive end looping back in towards the center, and you just see that this Coleman Shelton is just not even close to blocking. I believe it might have been Danielle Hunter on those 2 plays. And that it goes to what you're saying, is that a gelling communication thing, or is that a coaching point? Because either way, if it's a communication of, hey, like screaming down the line that someone's now looping around and that everyone has to shift appropriately, that's one thing. If it's a coaching issue where, hey, you need to be able to have the head on a swivel and understanding, you're not necessarily blocking the man directly in front of you, right? You're blocking an area more so and a gap, and that you're responsible for this gap. That's a whole different thing. That's a Chris Morgan and Shane Waldron issue show. So, seeing what that looks like over the next couple of weeks after some adjustment period, I think is well worth our time.
I mean, because again, I just think you don't want to be reactionary this early in the season. I understand having those concerns because I don't like watching this, and in particular, right? It's the same offensive line coach and mostly the same offensive line with the exception of one guy. You would assume that they would be better than this, but I think the reality is that offense is bad right now across the board in the league. So does that mean we're going to then reach deep into our bag of replacement level or below replacement level offensive linemen and just see what sticks? How does that help?
The only thing that I think would be helpful here is if you believe, I was using Matt Pryor as my example. If you believe his floor is higher than maybe like a Nate Davis is. Because we don't, Nate Davis, if you look at his time in Tennessee, he was a good guard. He was a guard that was worth $10 million a year.
Yes.
And so I don't know if it's a mentality thing. I don't know if some of the injuries he has had, because he's had real injuries, have stacked up a little bit, where he's lost a little bit of that anchor. Because there was a lot of plays where he was just put on his butt in that last game. If you think that potentially Matt Pryor's floor is a little higher than Davis's, even if Davis shows you some flashes, because in that game, first half, he actually looked decent. In the second half, he looked terrible. Then I think you make that shift. But that, and just you need like respectable play. And we can touch on some other stuff as we move forward on that too. But now we're going to do our training room roundup. Just a brief, I'm going to say brief because actually there's a lot of people on this list, a dive into the training room for the Bears and the Colts. So some of the DNPs that are probably the most important just to talk about right now. Keenan Allen has not played the last 2 games. Same with, practices. Same with Blasingame. Mercedes Lewis, again, it doesn't matter. He's just a veteran, doesn't need to do it. And then Zach Pickens, who actually came back and was active last week, but seems to have re-aggravated. What is your feeling on Keenan Allen right now? I mean, I felt going into this whole era of the Bears with the Allen, we knew he was going to miss games. I don't know that I thought it was necessarily this early. I also thought it would be a soft tissue thing. Like there'd be a 4-week period where there was a hamstring that acted up and we said, okay, I expected this. I didn't think it would be a plantar fasciitis issue.
Yeah, I think given Keenan Allen's age, right? I mean, he's 33 years old. I think that you figure it was probably going to be a couple of years before his body really started to break down. He just wasn't going to be the same guy anymore. And it doesn't surprise me at all to see him this time. Now, what I'm worried, I feel like I'm worried in the sense that while he hasn't, and really the entire passing offense hasn't stood out in any way, losing him, and then you're talking about DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, who was also dealing with, a knee issue of his own, right? Though he played on Sunday night. I feel like I'm now starting to get worried because this skill position group doesn't seem to be as strong as we thought it was. And just generally, this whole operation is not as strong as we thought it was. So can we afford to lose anyone off of that list right now and expect the passing offense to improve? And I mean, it really can't go anywhere else but up because it's not very good right now. So I think if you had asked me before the season, I might have had a bit more of an optimistic viewpoint of it. And again, it's 2 games, right? But I might have been like, hey, Rome's chance to shine. But now, Rome has been hobbled a little bit and hasn't done much of anything. He's got 2 catches.
And at the end of the day, is a rookie who, as we saw, made some rookie mistakes last game.
Yes. And so, yeah, in theory, it's great. Bear Truth is saying this in the chat, like, Rome could potentially be more of a focal point. It's like, maybe that is a blessing in disguise. I need to see more from him to feel good about where we're at right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a couple of times last game that you would have liked that easy button. There's a couple 3rd and 3s I can think of, 3rd and 8s that would have been nice. 2nd and 12s to have that. Hey, I'm pretty certain I know where Keenan's going to be. That be able to zip him the ball. Just a little dive into some of that plantar fasciitis aspect. I've had it. I've treated a bunch of people with it. It sucks, right? It's not fun. You're not really going to make it worse, right? It's not like a MCL tear. It's not like a hamstring strain where you're worried about all of a sudden it getting worse, but there are problems ultimately with production because every time you step down, I mean, at the end of the day, right, that fascia at the bottom of your foot as it loops around the heel, it is a sling that has a lot of tension at it. A lot of times you can get it due to calf issues, just, whether you're talking about a weakness or a tightness. Also, we talk way too much about calf tightness. It's more often it's a weakness issue. Is stop just rolling out your calves, strengthen your damn calves and the front of your shins, your anterior tibials. If you're not doing that, you're not doing the right thing. But anyway,
exactly. Well, I mean, it's the same thing with doing ab crunches and focusing on the front part. You got to focus on your back too. You don't want to have a strong front side and a weak back.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, it's an itis, right? It's an inflammation. So even if you're taking care of some of those other things, the tissue itself needs to heal. This is why even last week I thought he was going to play, just because, hey, take that time, let the fibers just chill out a little bit and get rolling. But I mean, definitely something that can linger. Some of the don't think we have to dive too much into some of the other DNPs, to be honest, but there are some of the limiteds we should talk about. Tevin Jenkins being limited, I think he's going to play, but I mean, that deep thigh bruise, it just sucks. It's, again, not necessarily that's going to get worse, but whenever you have that and you have inflammation there, you can have an inhibition of the quad, and that's an extension issue. And all of a sudden your knee buckles. So he just needs time to let that heal.
Yeah. And I mean, as somebody who's got a deep knee bruise right now, it's like, in theory, yes, you can maybe function under such circumstances, but you are not going to like it, and you are not going to be as effective as you could be. But again, would you rather have Tevin Jenkins playing at 85% or whomever might be playing behind him?
Normally, I would say Tevin Jenkins. After the first couple of weeks, I'm wondering what the heck is going on with him. But yes, I'd rather have Tevin Jenkins. I mean, that's definitely for sure.
You're just like I don't know, but also yes.
I also just thought, and this is more of a Tevin sidebar, I suppose. He's always been so good as a run blocker, and we haven't really seen that. So that goes with what you just said, like what's happening. And there just hasn't been as much of the development as a pass blocker, and we saw that in full force these last 2 weeks. So, especially in a contract year, I'm curious what's going to happen with him.
Yeah. We've been kind of building towards the contract year thing for a while. And, hey, I will at least say we did get here, because there was all that talk about him getting traded, but we did make it here.
A couple of the people to talk about here, Travis Homer, we'll go with first. He's limited with a finger. I mean, it must have literally happened today, where I would think limited is tough that when it happens the day of, because he could have done half the practice, and let's say he just dislocated and they popped it back in. It's like, okay, whatever, he'll play this weekend. Or it could be that he shattered a finger, and that would still be limited because he played part of the practice. You just don't know. So you have to wait until tomorrow to really see what that looks like. Rome, he's probably going to be limited for the next couple of weeks. Same thing with Montez Sweat. We're going to have a little Sweat conversation later. I wouldn't worry about DeMarcus Walker. He's been fine the last 3 weeks with various things. The one that I do want to bring up, or two really, are Andrew Billings and Nate Davis, both with groins, both limited. So we already talked about Nate Davis a little bit. Now Nate Davis on limited practice going into a game like this, does that have you concerned? And then flipping that to Andrew Billings, I mean, to me, he's been one of the most consistent players on this team, period. Does potentially him being limited concern you?
Nate Davis, I think that's just going to happen at some point. He's going to miss time, and we're going to find out, what the reserves can do behind him. So concerned. I mean, the thing is, you'd say in theory, yes, but it's been so bad that I don't know how much worse it gets with him out of the lineup versus him in it. Though I don't know if I really want to know the answer to that question. Billings, that does concern me because he is so good. And particularly, we're talking about groins, right? So that affects your explosiveness, how quickly you can get off the line, and it affects your anchor, right? And how powerful you can be at the point of attack. And he's one of the key players to this defense. Jacob and I were talking about it yesterday. The fact that we were so concerned, I think, before the season about what is the front going to be able to do aside from Montez Sweat. And Andrew Billings has shown up, and he's the fourth highest graded pass rushing interior defender in the league right now. He's been that good. So I think losing him in any capacity is going to hurt.
Yes. And the part that bothers me the most about it, for both really Davis and Billings, just in general, in terms of the physical therapist aspect of it, is, usually you're talking about either adductor longus or adductor magnus, that inner thigh muscle going up to touch on that butt bone. And now all of a sudden you're having this bigger conversation of, like you said, power development. That can develop into back problems. That can be like an athletic pubic hernia could be an issue. You're talking about potentially core issues, and you're talking about knee stability. So, we don't know much just based off the fact that it says groin, where exactly that is. But, I mean, that can be something that is fairly problematic down the road. So, don't love that. For the Colts, I don't know why they did this. I mean, they have like a bunch of people listed as fulls, and it's like, why are they on this report then? Get it out of here. But the people to keep in mind, Matt Gay, their kicker, didn't participate on Wednesday, but then was full today. So just keep an eye on that. really the biggest one is Laius Latu, right? Their rookie pass rusher, probably one of the best pass rushers in the last draft. If you follow Bare Bones, was pretty vocal about not wanting him just because I'm concerned about
because of the injury
long-term
concerns,
health issues. Now, the hip bone is not connected to the neck bone, so I'm not sitting here saying that this was all correlated, but it's just one of those things where it's like, man, you don't want to be one of those hurt guys that stays hurt. But he did not practice the last two. We also, like I said, Buckner is not going to be in. How important is that for this Bears team who has struggled on their offensive line to not have a young, promising rookie coming at them?
The Buckner one is the big one for me, because I think that of all the things, I'm most concerned about the interior and getting blown up in the A and B gaps. So having DeForest Buckner not in the lineup obviously makes you feel a little bit less threatened. When it comes to Latu, I think he was probably the best kind of technician out of all the pass rushers that came out this year. Mm-hmm. I think he probably was going to be a guy that Braxton Jones or Darnell Wright could handle pretty decently. So I wasn't necessarily looking at it like, oh yeah, Latu's going to come in and wreck the game. Obviously you would assume that it would be easier to deal with, but I also think the tackle play has been a bit rough as well. So I don't want to make any assumptions about, oh yeah, it's going to be a cakewalk now. I feel like we've fallen into that trap a little bit the last couple of years. Like, oh yeah, this top flight edge rusher isn't playing. It's going to be smooth sailing, and then dudes end up with 3 sacks. So in theory, it's better for the Bears. But I also just want to see whoever's out there, whoever they're going against. I just want to see Darnell Wright, Braxton Jones pitch a shutout. I need it.
Just because I'm looking at the depth chart right now, just wanted to highlight, because I think it's funny, is I forgot 8080 is on this team. I refuse to say his full name because I will absolutely butcher it. But Northwestern defensive player who had that whole thing last year about potentially being a first round pick and everything like that. And I know a lot of Bears fans wanted him. But he hasn't really done anything. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
All right. A little break here. And during this break, we're going to listen in and then hear about some kombucha.
Ooh. Okay. Crisp. Whoa.
That's really good.
That one's really good too.
That was good.
That's it's so refreshing. It's so good to have right before we go play.
And it has
it really quenches your thirst.
And it has the right amount of bitterness where it kind of
it's not too sweet, not too bitter. That's
yes.
what we were saying with the last one.
I like that. Mango
this one
is my favorite.
This one's the best. This one's the best.
That one. Guys, we're gonna have to argue over this. It's that one.
No, this one's so good. This one's so good.
I used to drink kombucha.
This one is good.
5 a.m. before practice every day because it woke me up and it made me feel good before practice.
You just heard from the Chicago Lions women's team, the professional athletes in the Chicagoland area. Kombucha is a premium performance-focused kombucha crafted specifically for athletes and active individuals. This revitalizing beverage blends the traditional benefits of kombucha with nutritional enhancements to support energy, hydration, and recovery. It is made from organic teas and infused with natural electrolytes. Kombucha offers a delicious and effective solution to maintain peak performance. Better athletic performance, increased nutrient absorption, improved wellness, and improved cognitive stamina. If it's good enough professionals, should be good enough for you. Use code BEARGUTCHECK, BEARGUT, and then check. I'm not spelling that. To get 15% off on your order. The more that we sell, the more benefits we can give to you. Hopefully do some giveaways of it as well. So I'm going to also be on the lookout in the next week or two. I'll be posting a Bears giveaway related to kombucha. So keep an eye on that.
Okay.
Knee jerk reaction. So from this point on, we are putting the Texans in the rear view mirror. We got Colts ahead. Doesn't matter. What is your knee-jerk reaction? One hot take going into this week, Khari?
I think the Bears are going to own Anthony Richardson. I think this is exactly the kind of defense that Anthony Richardson struggles with because he's such a big-armed, athletic guy. He can make tight window, downfield throws. He can really do a lot more as a quarterback, as a thrower of the football than I think he got credit for coming out. And again, he is a tremendous athlete, but the Bears don't care about any of that. They are going to, playing cover 2 a lot and sitting back there and basically just saying, all right, you're going to have to take the easy stuff. We're not going to let you beat us 60 yards down the field. You're going to have to complete, you're going to have, 10, 11, 12 play drives, and you're going to have to make all the right decisions and all the right throws and be accurate all the way down the field. And I think that's something that Richardson is struggling with right now. We've seen him air it out 60, 70 yards, like in the air, just absolutely insane stuff. But the Bears aren't going to let you do that kind of thing. So I think that they're going to frustrate the hell out of him. They're going to get him to turn the football over, and they are going to continue this early season run they've had where they've been really good, including against CJ Stroud, especially in that second half last Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Anthony Richardson currently ranks 7th in aggressive percentage of throws. So, that tracks the amount of passing attempts a quarterback makes that are into tight coverage, where there's at least a defender within 1 yard. In addition to that, he's actually not doing great in terms of his time to throw. I mean, I don't love this stat, but he's third. He's holding the ball the third fastest or longest, at 3.1 seconds. Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray are ahead of him, which makes sense. They're both all scramblers in that way. But if he's going to be a guy who's going to hold the ball for a while and then also try to chuck it into tight windows, that's going to be potentially a recipe for disaster if his accuracy is not on point, as you highlighted. Mine is the Bears offense had a negative play on 0 yards or 44% of snaps in the last game. My major reaction to that is I honestly don't see how that improves a ton besides playing worse competition. And so essentially what I'm saying is the pathway forward for me does not look stellar besides just trying to bang out the dents that you have against worse competition. So
it's like play worse teams.
It's kind of what it is right now. I mean, the Cats are in fact worse the Colts are in fact worse competition. So there should be a step forward, just not sure how big it is. Everyone knows that, the Colts, Rams, and Panthers, the Bears next to your opponents, are the worst 3 teams in terms of stopping the run. We also know the Bears are pretty terrible at establishing the run. So, Bill Zimmerman of Bears manager had a great conversation with Brandon Thorne, who is one of my go-tos for offensive line plays. Yes. And that's here on Second City Gridiron. If you haven't listened to that, you absolutely should. It was a great conversation.
Yes, you should.
One of my biggest takeaways from that was you should see improvement with improved communication and more time on task, but it's going to be marginal due to limitations in their individual games. For example, Brandon had the Bears ranked as his 24th best offensive line coming into the season. So you should see them closer to that versus 32nd. So you should be better than how terrible you have been, but let's also be real that there's only so much improvement you can make just because Coleman Shelton isn't going to add 60 pounds to his frame between now and the Colts game, or even let's say a better team like the Vikings in November. You're not going to all of a sudden see Nate Davis and Tevin Jenkins improve that quick much in terms of their hand placement and the timing of it for their pass blocking. So my knee-jerk reaction is just it'll get better, but barely.
Yes. I mean, it's gonna take time. And I think, again, watch the team that we're gonna watch tonight, the New England Patriots. I watch them a lot because I'm out here in Boston and I, kind of have to do a lot of work on them. They came into this season knowing that this was not going to be great and that basically the roster is what they have, and there aren't going to be any easy fixes to this. It's the same thing with the Bears. You basically just have to hope that what you've got right now plays better than it's playing.
Next, we are going to do our to be perfectly honest. This is something brutally honest about the upcoming game. I'll go. My first one is I am not picking any of these upcoming games as a guaranteed win, especially the Colts. And actually, now I can throw the Panthers in there because I think Andy Dalton's a professional quarterback and can actually do some stuff, which is annoying. You couldn't have waited a couple weeks, Panthers. But anyway, that's a future week. The defense for the Colts is an issue, which I'll dive into a little later specifically. But there are still players on this team. I mentioned last week that the Colts had 3 of the fastest sacks against Stroud in week 1, and Buckner only had 1 of them. So, you still have 2 good players over there. Anyway, this offense has potential. According to Next Gen Stats in week 1, Indy had 3 ball carriers who ranked in the top 10 fastest ball carriers of those weeks. Alec Pierce had a 60-yard touchdown reception, reaching 21.21 miles per hour. He had another one on a 57-yard reception. All those explosive plays. Anthony Gould had a 26-yard kickoff return where he reached 21.
My guy. I mean, so he was somebody I really loved at the Shrine Bowl, by the way. I just want to say.
And Danny loved him too. He highlighted him in one of the draft series. Anthony Richardson is leading the league in longest completed air yard distance and air yards to the sticks. Jonathan Taylor ranks 6th in rushing yards over expected. So they can move the ball. I know, who was it? I started. Harpoon Bakery had said that basically that Anthony Richardson was a bust and highlighted some stats here. 49.1 per completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. But it's like, first of all, this is basically Richardson's rookie year. So if we're going to say that for Caleb, why are we not going to say it for Anthony Richardson? It's not. It's 1.5 year for Anthony Richardson. Anyway, my point essentially is Anthony Richardson is an alien and can do alien things. So don't just mark this as a win, because they're a handful of explosive plays away from potentially being able to outscore this Bears team, which we have not seen move the ball well.
Yeah, and I think that's really the scary part, is that the Bears defense is playing as well as it is, but the offense hasn't been doing anything. So all you really need is one explosive play on offense that nets them a touchdown. And then maybe, one big play on special teams that puts you behind the 8 ball because your offense hasn't been able to get anything done. And I think if it's all right with you, I'm going to lead that right into my knee-jerk reaction.
Do it.
Which is that I don't expect Caleb Williams and the offense to look all that much better this week, regardless of how the Colts look and who they're missing. I think, we're going to – first of all, I mentioned this earlier. Quarterback play and just yards, passing yards are down across the board. I think I had done some research on this, and it's been about the same through 2 weeks, where in 2020, when they first moved to the 17-game season, the first week passing yards, like the average was like 272 yards for all the quarterbacks. And there were like 6 or 7 300-yard gains and 22 guys that were over 200 yards passing. And this year in week 1, the average passing yards across the league was 185. Jeez. And I want to say that just generally so far, it's been about 193 passing yards that people are averaging right now. So passing is down. And then you throw in the fact that Caleb is a rookie, that he's seeing a lot of this stuff for the first time and still working through some kinks. The offensive line hasn't been very good. The receivers are getting open, but I think there are also still some issues with just the overall synergy of the operation. So I feel like if we're saying, oh yeah, this is going to be Caleb's breakout game because the Colts aren't very good, I'm like, I need to see some evidence of that first. So I don't think we're going to see 200 yards this week either.
You're on a roll. Why don't we just go right into, well, ain't this humorous, our section where we something quirky or funny about this upcoming matchup. What is your, well, ain't this humorous?
My thing is like, and it's slightly tangential, but I really hope that Rome Odunze does something this week, because his dad is already sharing clips and popping off on Twitter about how Rome's getting open. He's just not getting the ball. And I'm just like, dog, no, we can't be doing this through 2 games. It's too early for this, man. And he was just like, no, it's just because basically it's because Dan Orlovsky was on ESPN talking junk. And I look at these separation statistics. Like, he's getting open. Throw my son the ball. He's over here, Carl Williamsing right now on behalf of his son, Rome Odunze. So it's like I can't help but kind of chuckle at that a little bit and just hope, like, come on, Rome, come down with the touchdown catch, bro. Keep your feet in bounds this time. Give us something.
That's the one that's definitely tough about that whole thing too, right? Because like that, he's got to score that touchdown. Like, yes, the ball could have been a little better, and yes, the defense was right on top of him. But like, that hit you in the hands. This is what you're brought in for. I mean, you're a massive dude. You got to make that catch. But at the same time, Bears fans, chill the hell out. I mean, I'm seeing way too many people on Twitter talking about how Rome should have been the pick. They should have been, they should have taken the insert this offensive lineman here. They should have traded down for that. It's like, it's been 2 dang games. And also, if you didn't have Rome, now all of a sudden you have pretty much the same receiving core you did last year, because Keenan Allen's out. So you'd have DJ Moore and then DeAndre Carter as your number 2. So like, is that really what you want? Really? Like, really?
Which, hey, I mean, look, DeAndre Carter had himself a nice game last week, but I still want Rome Odunze.
And I like him as my number 4, I'll accept
Yes.
number 3.
Yes. DeAndre Carter is your number 4 receiver. That works for me. Which, by the way, dog, where's Tyler Scott?
The best I could come up with was 2 things. A, Tyler Scott drops a lot of balls, so that's part of it. But also B, because you were replacing Keenan Allen, who plays in the slot, I think DeAndre Carter fits there better than necessarily specifically Tyler Scott. So I mean that's kind of where I landed.
I can see that.
It's humorous is guess who was at the bottom of the league in rushing over expected? Yep, DeAndre Swift is negative 54 rushing yards over expected. So even with the blocking and everything how it's set up, which isn't good, he is still getting 54 yards less than with that setup that he currently has. He's currently sitting at a 33% rushing success rate, which is 37th for all running backs. His 8+ D percentage, which is 8.33%, that's basically how many defenders are stacked in the box at the snap. Using that logic, right, that 8 in the box calculates how often does a rusher see 8 or more defenders. He has the 5th lowest, 3rd worst if you don't count Chuba Hubbard or Devin Singletary, which for some reason they don't have an actual entry. It's just dashes. I don't know. Maybe they haven't had enough rushes, and I have no idea. But basically, he's not facing 8 defenders very often at all. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more Herbert and Roschon on Sunday. Just not like a lot, just like a little bit more to even it out. I just find it kind of funny that also with considering what this matchup's going to be, that he has been that terrible, and you now have the opportunity to go up against one of the worst run defenses in the Colts.
I mean, hey, listen, we're having all these discussions right now about the cover 2 and how it's ruining football and the passing games around the league. You want to know how you get teams out of cover 2? Run the football. Run it a lot. Run it right down their throats, and then they will stop screwing around with having a safety out of the box. But the other thing that I was thinking, and again, this is a kind of a couple play sample, but I understand that Caleb Williams is probably a way more comfortable in shotgun. That's what he operated out of in high school and college, etc. But the best DeAndre Swift run that I saw last week came from under center, and I want to see them get under center and run the football and let this dude get downhill, let everybody get downhill and build up, as opposed to everything just feels really static and difficult right now with this offense. If you want to run the ball, then let's go. Get downhill.
I don't think I have a point specifically highlighting this, but I have a bone to pick with Shane Waldron and his play calling and play design. I might have one later, so I'm going to save my thoughts on that. But yes, I couldn't agree more. Be able to under center more. Let these offensive linemen just go down, attack downhill. And yes, Swift has his problems, but at least that way, there's more opportunity to just trip forward for a couple yards instead of losing 2 yards in the backfield.
There you go. If you're gonna fall and you're gonna end up on the ground, at least fall that way.
Exactly.
Like do yourself a Jordan Howard. Go trip that way.
All right, we got another break coming at you. This time is brought to you by Underdog. We got that dog in us this year. It's the greatest time of the year. Football is back, and it's here to stay till February. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog. Signing up on Underdog is smooth and easy. I especially like using their mobile app as it makes making picks easy as hell. Their gimme picks, example, like you can take tonight Aaron Rodgers higher than 0.5 total yards. Like they're handing that to you, along with their built-in multipliers, making things interesting and pretty chill. I also love the variety they have compared to other betting sites and apps, such as their 4-person Battle Royale draft. Just pick players for this week and profit. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward, and signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with promo code CITY, C-I-T-Y, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code CITY to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus, 21 and older in Massachusetts and Arizona, 19 and older in Alabama, interesting, Nebraska, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, 1-800-NEXT STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783 or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. We got that dog in us.
We do.
Oh yeah, I had this too, and I forgot to do it. Bam. Cool. If you're listening to the podcast, it's just a stupid picture. You look at the YouTube; it was funny. At least I got Khari to chuckle a little bit.
Yes.
What you need to know about this matchup with the Colts?
Say code 45 and 2 zigzags, baby. That's all we need.
The Indianapolis Colts lead the series against Chicago Bears with a record of 24-19. This includes both regular season and postseason games, with the Colts having a slight edge historically. The last game was a win by the Colts in 2020, 19-11. Khari, can you tell me who the quarterback was in that game?
For which team?
Either. Give me both.
In 2020. So 19-12, you said?
19-11.
Oh, 19-11. So that one was probably not Mitch at that point. Was that Foles for the Bears?
Yep.
And not the Matt Ryan year. Was it? Crap. I'm not going to get the Colts guy. I was going to say Matt Ryan, but I don't think that was the Matt Ryan year.
It was Phillip Rivers.
Phillip Rivers, damn. Yep. Oh, I should have done it.
In that game, Nick Foles played against Phillip Rivers, where Nick Foles was 26 for 42 passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Oh, and by the way, the Bears had 28 net rushing yards. Great. I believe Montgomery had 24 of those 28. So we have a couple questions about this matchup that I'd like to throw at you, get your perspective. This actually connects well, as this was brought up earlier in the pod. For you, where does Anthony Richardson rank for you on the spectrum of NFL quarterbacks, and specifically in terms of first and second year quarterbacks?
So some of this is going to be an incomplete grade, but I mean, if we're talking kind of, I'm trying to think of how to level it, but he's definitely on the bottom rung for me right now. So it's like if we're talking about like percentages, I'm putting him in sort of like the bottom 30%.
Okay.
Some of that is going to be because he just hasn't played a whole lot. The talent is amazing and it's off the charts, but I also feel like the decision making, and I'm not just talking about throwing the football, I'm also talking about the way he runs, right? I think some of it is reckless. And he's got to tone some of that down. And I think just right now, I don't feel like his style of play is terribly sustainable for winning football. Right now. I mean, again, I think that he has all the ability needed. And again, I think that this isn't like, oh, well, he came in as like he can't throw the football. He can definitely throw the football. And he can and will make NFL ass throws.
He can make every throw.
Yes, he can literally make every throw, and he can do it in a game. The consistency is not there right now. And some of that is just a lack of reps. So right now, he's down there for me.
And I think that's totally fair. I mean, I was going to say 25%, so we're right in the same zone.
Yeah, we're in the same ballpark. Yeah.
In terms of like the first and second year quarterbacks,
when you take it in totality, then you probably put him in like the middle because there are a bunch of quarterbacks in that class that are ass.
So right now, we're going to do this really quick. Would you take Drake May or Anthony Richardson?
Drake.
Would you take JJ McCarthy or Anthony Richardson?
Probably.
Removing health. I mean, you're now just saying I'm going to take a quarterback and go. Like, you're not going to take a miss this.
Okay, I'm gonna say Richardson.
Okay, Bo Nix or Richardson?
Richardson.
Okay, I would hope so. So, I mean, if you could really look at the last
Nix
2 years, I mean, I assume you're not taking Levis over Richardson, right?
Will Levis is awful. He sucks awful.
Within the last 2 years of quarterbacks, you're taking Stroud over him. And you're taking, I would assume, Caleb over him right now. That means he's number 3. So he's not butt.
Yeah, and he's not a bust. And again, it's one of those deals where like there's just so much more that we need to see from him. I mean, right now, I guess you would take, Jaden Daniels over him, for the little bit that he's shown too. But again, that's
I
not
forgot
like,
about Jaden for some reason. I have no idea why.
yeah, it's not like he's been like, oh my God, amazing. But yeah, when you think about how bad a lot of these quarterbacks are, some of them just aren't playing, right? They're backups and that's fine. But some of the guys who have played, right? Like Will Levis had like one good game or like 1.5 good games his rookie year, and he's been awful ever since. So there's just not a lot of good quarterback play out here. So Richardson has an opportunity to, be up there for real because of his own play, but he's mostly up there in that middle of the pack just by default.
Yeah, I mean, for Jaden Daniels, when your average depth of target is 3.2 yards, which is right around Tua, who barely played and was just throwing, and Bo Nix, who's just throwing in flats. Like
I saw an absolutely absurd. So you know how like they'll do sort of those bar charts where they show like what are your percentages of actually throwing the ball, scrambling, pressure, sack, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like Jaden Daniels has like a 36% scramble rate.
It's insane. Yeah, it's
like,
so much of the
this brother is not throwing the football. Like you can make jokes about people as like, oh yeah, it's like we knew he was going to be like the next Justin Fields or whatever. It's like, no, that's Justin Fields on another level. Like he's running almost 40% of the time he drops back to pass. That's crazy.
Every third snap he's running. That's
somebody
insane.
is going to kill him if he doesn't stop. And then again, like we joked about it a bunch, but just like offering his body and soul as a sacrifice to the Lord every time he goes out there, not sliding.
He's going to get killed. That's second question I have for you. It's only week 2. I'm going to put that on there. Has Montez Sweat been doing enough for you?
No. I think that he has been. Well, I mean, I think he's been pedestrian by Montez Sweat standards. I mean, he's still getting pressure, right? And I think you're still noticing him a couple of times, but I think it has not been dominant by any stretch. And I wonder how much of that is. I would really have to go back and look closer at the film here, but how much of this is like defenses say or opposing offenses saying that's the one guy over there that keeps us up at night. We're going to make sure that he doesn't screw us over.
And just to give listeners an idea, so right, he has 0 sacks across 2 games, 1 pass defended, 2 tackles, 2 assists, 3 quarterback hurries, 0 quarterback knockdowns, and 3 pressures. He's played 67% of the defensive snaps. Compare that to 83% for DeMarcus Walker, 69% for Andrew Billings, nice, and 67% for Trevon Dexter. So, my answer to this would be no, he's not doing enough for me. But, I don't have specifically the double team percentage pulled up here, and all that jazz. So
that's really what I would want to see, because if we find out he's just getting single blocked every time and losing, I'm going to be like, okay, like, do you need to take some pre-workout or something before these games? Like,
let me ask, is Aiden Hutchinson, you think, getting only single blocked and getting 5 sacks against the Bucs?
That guy's a freaking demon.
I'm not saying he has to be that, but like the dude had 5 sacks in one game. Give me 1 month. And get to just disrupt the quarterback more. That's all I want.
He's absolutely insane. I don't like. I feel like just like in his brain, it's not even so much like it's like I can imagine like a hamster running on a wheel all the time. I think like he's like a wolf running on a carousel. He's just absolutely feral beast all the time.
Billie Jean's good. Last question, make it quick. How do you view DJ Moore's response to adversity Sunday night? How does that carry into this week with some of the body language stuff? And as I would honestly put it, I think there was a good number of routes where he was not giving it his all.
I don't love it. I think that he let it get to him in terms of the frustration, not getting the ball on some of those throws, which, on some of those throws, he was open. He got separation off the line of scrimmage or whatever, and hasn't been getting, I think, the involvement that you would hope DJ Moore gets. But I think it was pretty obvious in that game that he let it affect him. And I feel like yeah, it's prime time. You want to win. It's a big game against a good opponent. You want to show what you can do, and you want to make plays for your team. But I think you just got to keep it a little bit more together than that. Now, listen, I'm saying that from here. I'm saying that as somebody who like would literally just like black out from like, being pissed off whenever I like lost a race in like high school and stuff like that. Just like fiendishly like horrible competitor. But while that's true, like you got to have passion, right? And you got to have that desire, like every time you want to go out there and dominate. But this is a rookie quarterback who's going through it right now. And you got to understand that it's not going to be perfect. It's not. It's probably going to be a while before it's good, honestly. And through that time, you're gonna have to be a leader on this offense. You're gonna have to be there for him. You are going to have to help him along. So I think him kind of readdressing that and saying like, okay, if I reevaluate that, I would do it a bit more. I'd do it a bit differently. That's the kind of thing you want to hear him say. And from here on, you want to see it be better.
And I get it. I mean, for DJ, right? This isn't just a fresh start. Like a lot of us Bear fans can just say, okay, this is brand new team. But for him, right? I mean, he's played with quarterbacks like the end of career Cam Newton, Kyle Allen, Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Newton again. Then he came over and he's played with a little bit of Tyson Bagent, obviously with Justin Fields, who we all know his limitations. And so for him, it's not. This isn't fresh. This isn't new. I mean, this is a long time in his career that he's been dealing with this.
Yeah.
But like you said, at the same time, you got to reset that mentality and understand like this is truly not just a new season, but a hopefully new era. And you can't let frustrations over the last chunk of your career blend into these first couple weeks.
Yeah. And I think there are a bunch of people that have taken that reaction and said to themselves, well, look at that. It's like he was saying he wanted Justin Fields to stay here. And, obviously he had a career high in receiving yards last year and, had his best year statistically for sure. But it wasn't always perfect last year either. And there were times when he was looking around like, get me the ball, please. So I really think that you're going to go through these rough patches when it comes to young quarterbacks. And DJ Moore knows that better than anybody because he's played with some bad quarterbacks. And that's the irony, is that Justin Fields might have been the best quarterback that he's played with.
Which is saying so.
And you would hope that Caleb Williams is going to be better than that. And I think he will be better than that. It's just going to take a few weeks.
Quick aside, this is from Pro Football Talk, tweeted this out. Azeez Al-Shahir was fined $11,000 for punching Roshan Johnson. So, suck it.
How about we go ahead and whip that flag out next time? Okay?
That should be reviewed. Someone from New York has to be able to call down and be like, yo, by the way, give a penalty.
And they were literally just like, yeah, our hands are tied because there wasn't a flag thrown on the play. When it's just like, y'all missed it. He wasn't hiding the fact that he threw the punch.
So ridiculous. All right. Love it, hate it, rehabilitate it. This is a matchup, a dynamic that we love for the Bears, one we hate for the Bears, and one that if you were the coach, you'd want to focus on fixing this week. What is your love it?
I love the defense, and I love the matchup again against the Colts. And I think this is going to be an opportunity for, I think it's going to be an opportunity for the safeties, especially to make some plays. I think this is the kind of game where Kevin Byard can come up with an interception right here. Ball hawk Richardson staring down a receiver and go pick him off over the middle of the field. I think this is going to be an opportunity for Jalen Johnson to shut down a couple of receivers over there. Especially Alec Pierce is like the big downfield threat here. Take him out of the game and really just throttle their options. I think that they are in perfect position to do that.
For me, there wasn't a matchup or anything that I loved. So I went with this one, not because I love it, but because I think it'll be a fun test more so. It's the Bears defensive line versus the Colts offensive line. Darrell Taylor ranks 6th amongst edges in pass rush win rate, according to ESPN, with 31%. He's only seen 9 true pass rush snaps, which is kind of crazy. Surprisingly, he has a double team percent of 5%, which is fairly high. As for defensive tackles, Demarcus Walker and Andrew Billings ranked second and third, respectively, in pass rush win rates at 30 and 26%. Now you go to the other side of the ball, Quentin Nelson and Ryan Kelly for the Colts are tied for sixth in pass block win rate amongst interior offensive linemen at 98%. Quentin Nelson also ranked sixth for a run block win rate. I just think this is going to be really fun to see them go at it. I like the test as well, because now you really have to see what this defensive line can do when they are facing pretty solid offensive line. Next, I'll just roll right into my hate. I hate Eberflus versus Steichen. This is simple. I think Steichen is a good head coach. I think Eberflus is a great defensive coordinator, below average head coach. I don't think Steichen is elite or anything like that, right? He doesn't fall in the Andy Reid grin, but I think he's good. In 2023, he got this team to 9-8 with a near playoff berth with Gardner Minshew at quarterback, and the defense was allowing the fourth most points per game. The offense was average 23.3 points per game, which is 10th best in the league, and it was ranked 11th in touchdowns per game. It was also ranked 10th in rushing yards per game last year. He did all of this with a roster that I don't think is particularly good. They are the 23rd oldest team, but honestly, a lot of their good players are kind of on the older side, or a little bit, or like at least middle of the road. So they've had a recent influx of young players, hence why they're at 23. So just in terms of head coach versus head coach, in terms of like that full responsibility, all of the things, I hate that.
I think to kind of dovetail off of that, I feel like what I hate right now is not knowing whether Shane Waldron just isn't sure what to call, because I mean, he's new at this and he's working through things with a new quarterback, et cetera, or if it's because he's not sure if his offensive line can block it, or just generally, like if he's not sure what to do and how to make this operation cohesive because he is not good or because the team is not good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the fact that I'm even thinking about like, well, one of them's got to be terrible. It's like, can we just get to the part where it's all good? And I think this is the part where perhaps what I'm really saying I hate is that I don't know what their identity is.
That is so well put.
I don't know what the point is of anything that they are trying to do, because I think that there are cases where it's like, okay, well, we're going to spread it out a little bit because we want to let Caleb get the ball out of his hands quickly. And it's like, okay, that I suppose. Okay, well, we want to run the football, but we want to run it out of shotgun all the time. We want to make sure that we throw the ball to the tight ends, but we're throwing to Gerald Everett, not Cole Kmet. Like, come on, man. Like, can we? I think what would make me feel better is if on the first drive they were under center for like 60% of it, and we're just like, run the football, ooh, play action boot, run the football some more, and go score a touchdown. And even though it's like when we've been through this with the first drive Bears, where it's like, yeah, scripted plays are great. It's like that would at least make me think you did that for a purpose.
Yep.
That you wanted to establish something and see if it works. And then you can build off of that. As of right now, I don't really know what they are building off of.
There's no play after the play. There's no this play sets up this other play. It just seems kind of like, oh man, this play might work in practice. It's so discombobulated.
And the thing is, Shane Waldron, I mean, obviously people had issues with him in Seattle for various reasons. I feel like nobody absolutely loves their offensive coordinator all the time, unless maybe you're like Ben Johnson
fan right now in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Or like, Bobby Slowick or something. But I think even there, right? Like he showed on tape that he knew how to set things up. So I'm wondering where that is right now.
Because my rehabilitate matches pretty well with what you did, I'll dive into it. For me, it's like, who gives first? The Colts' very movable run defense, the Bears' very stoppable run game. So I think I want to rehabilitate the Bears' run game, right? Like you talked about. So the Colts' run defense has been historically bad. 474 rushing yards over the last 2 weeks. That hasn't happened since 2000. I think for some reasons for this, they do play a lot of cover 2, but their guys are just getting moved. They don't have a lot of run stunts, and their linebackers don't attack downhill. It kind of looks like they're just in quicksand. I mean, keep in mind, if you look at the most recent run debacle they had, I mean, LaFleur was in his bag. He had some weird stuff that they were doing wrong concept-wise. Wicks was getting handoffs. Jaden Reed got handoffs, and then Josh Jacobs was lead blocking for him. So I'm going to give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt, just a smidge in that second game particularly, but they're still not very good. Now, one thing I specifically would like to see is some more jumbo. I would like you to get, I don't care, whoever you think your next best player is, like Matt Pryor, if maybe, or a good way to get Karan Amagaji, just a couple of snaps here and there to get his feet wet might be to do this. The Chargers have been great at this. If you watch their games, they're even moving Rashawn Slater to tight end so that they have Alt and Slater on the same edge. And then they're saying, screw it, we're just going to run you over in that direction. This does a few things. You create body type mismatches. You get teams out of nickel and more into base. And also going forward now, you have that tape and teams have to prepare. There's only so much time you really have in any given week. And now the fact that going forward, other teams have to be like, all right, well, what happens when they bring out whoever, Matt Pryor? Oh, so now you have to prepare for that, not just in the coaches meetings, but also on the field with your players. And that's just annoying. So I would like, it doesn't have to be a lot either. Give me a handful of plays, just a couple. Attack downhill.
Yeah. Yes. I think you basically hit it on that one. That would have been what I would have said is rehabilitate the offensive line and getting downhill in the run game. I would say I want to rehabilitate Rome Odunze's usage in this offense. I want to get him the football. I mean, whether you're handing it to him, getting it to him on a bubble screen, getting it to him on a dig route, whatever it is, I just want to see the football in his hands. And I want to see him be able to run. This dude can run. He can get yards after the catch. Okay. I want to see him get the football in space and basically see one, as they say in basketball parts, see one go down, see one go in.
Yeah. The confidence in this game can't be understated. All right. Very quick break here. And then we're going to wrap up this show. All right. We got X Factor for the Colts. What do you have?
Alec Pierce, if he gets off, if he gets deep, goes off for a big score, I think that could be the thing that keeps the Colts in this game, because I think they're going to sell out to, get after Jonathan Taylor in the run game, and they're going to try to make the Colts beat them in the air.
Great minds think alike. Mine's similar. Can they create explosive plays? Right, because you don't want to have to ask Anthony Richardson right now in his career to dink and dunk and plod down the field. No. You want to have, like in their first week when they almost beat the Texans, those big plays to Alec Pierce and A.D. Mitchell, who's had a lot of drops. So right now my draft love of him is not super great, but he runs real good. X Factor for the Bears. What do you have?
I think, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to say DeAndre Swift. He's got to be the guy. I need to see a better game from you. I need to see you churning out yards, being physical, finishing runs, falling forward. I want to see him average at least 4 yards a carry in this game.
Mine's basically, not allowing pressure almost every other play like they did in the previous game against the Texans. Establishing the run's a part of that, but also, Caleb's intermediate to deep passing has been a bit suspect in the first 2 games. And a part of that is because if you made like a super cut of all of his passes that were past 20 yards, how many of them has he really had his feet set? And that part of that is a little antsiness. Part of that is he probably can get reset at times. And a big chunk of that, though, is simply that the offensive line has also not allowed him to do so. So, hey, can we just reduce that pressure? Also, as a little mini side one, stop being cute. A good example, the Bears scored to end the half and have a chance to double dip and really take a bit of a hold of this game. You usually go into the locker room and you adjust your offense. You want to whip up your best play to get the ball moving right away, get momentum. You come out with a running back and 2 tight ends in your backfield, just straight across in some weird like T without a stem, and you essentially run a triple check down with your 3 backfield guys. Makes no sense. It's a waste of time. What are we doing? That was your best play? Stop being cute, Waldron. Do something. Just play good football.
Yes. Yeah.
Over-unders.
All right.
I'm going to throw these at Khari, see what he's got for you. So, Caleb Williams touchdowns accounted for in totality. 1.5.
I'm gonna say, you know what? Forget it. I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take the leap. First touchdown pass, and then get up in there with your legs. Do it.
Yeah, I think he's going to start run for more touchdowns than people think he will. Anthony Richardson, total yards, 250. Under. Last week, he had 204 passing yards and 37 rushing yards, just for the sake of numbers. Bears rushing yards, 125. Over.
I think this is going to be whether it's by committee running or like you get somebody on a jet sweep for big play or two, or Caleb Williams scrambles, gets down the field. I think in totality you'll see that much.
Okay. Indianapolis turnovers created. So the defense creating turnovers, 1.5.
Oof. That is a good question. I'm going to say under.
Okay.
Because I think they're going to try to keep it. They're going to try and play it safe. We're going to run the football this week.
Montez Sweat sacks, 0.5. Does he show up?
Let's go.
All right. Got at least one. Give me one. And then lastly, Indianapolis Colts passing plays over 30 yards, 1.5.
Ooh. I'm going to say under on that. The Bears have generally been pretty good about not giving up explosive plays. And I think that's going to continue. That's going to be the emphasis, right? Keep everything in front of you and tackle. So I think that if they get over 1.5, it won't necessarily be because, it's getting aired out down the field and making the play both times. One of them at least is going to be a catch and a run. So you got to tackle.
Bear gut check, game predictions. We use our gut feelings, revitalized by kombucha, of course, to give our game predictions against the line. Remember, use Bear gut check, 50% off kombucha. Go do it. Be cool. Bears at Colts. I was minus 1.5. Colts are favored. What do you got?
Oh, give me the Bears.
I'm just going to take the Bears in this one.
Outright.
I know the tenor of what I've kind of said over the last hour and 7 minutes hasn't made me seem like I'm super enthused, but I think for me, it's more of the, God, now we got to play down to this team. It's kind of more like that where I'm at. 1.5 is silly. Even if you look at the two games, like the transit property, the Bears playing the Texans and the Colts playing the Texans, I mean, they were pretty close. And also the Bears just kind of have at least one phase that's good in the defense. Give me the Bears. Tonight's game, Patriots at Jets. Jets are favored by 6. Who do you got?
I think the Patriots are going to cover.
I can buy that. I can win.
I don't know if I can make myself say they're going to win. I think there's a better chance that they win than people think. Because I know it's Aaron Rodgers and the defense and all that, but the Patriots have owned the Jets even when they have not had a quarterback. So. And I think that there's this part of me, it's like Jets gonna Jets, man. And so I think there's a better chance the Patriots win than you think, but I think they're gonna cover.
And I just wonder, like, Aaron Rodgers, I was listening to the Athletic Football podcast today, and they had Sam Schwartzstein on, who was doing the game tonight for Amazon, and he had the stat that about 50% of Aaron Rodgers' throws have been either slant, a flat, or go. And at least the first two, I think, match really well with the Patriots. The Patriots have a good defense, and they're going to get after Aaron. And also, Aaron has has moved the least in the pocket compared to only maybe Kirk Cousins. So I think this Patriots defense is going to get after him. And also, the Patriots, their offense can move the ball. We've seen that, mainly through the ground, but they can move it. Texans at Vikings. Texans favored by 2.5.
Texans at Vikings. It's going to be really interesting because I think the Texans are going to take it. But that Vikings defense has been, ever since Brian Flores got there, has been giving people all kinds of hell. So it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world, though I do think the Texans defense is going to present a bit more of a challenge for Sam Darnold than he's yet seen. Well, except for, I mean, yeah, they beat the 49ers, I would say. So that was real.
Packers at Titans. Titans are favored by 2.
Oh, I can't. I mean, it's going to be the Packers. I feel like the Packers going to win.
I don't care what quarterback is playing. By the way, I don't think Jordan Love plays. This whole thing is just seems.
I don't think so either.
That's
I saw saying, oh, he might play. No. He's not going to play. They're going to let Malik Willis get his revenge against his former team.
Apparently, Malik doesn't care. He's like, they drafted me, gave me a chance, and they paid me. So I don't care. So this is literally what he said. Panthers at Raiders. Panthers, we're just on pick 33 watch basically. Panthers are favored by 5. Sorry, Raiders are favored by 5. I flipped that.
I was about to say,
there's no way. I must have flipped that. Raiders are favored by 5.
Yeah, the Raiders are taking that. I will say, I mean, obviously you mentioned Andy Dalton is starting this week, and that is an improvement over what they have had. I just don't know that that's going to be enough.
I am worried. So this last couple of weeks in my pick'ems I've been doing for like Survivor leagues, I've been basically just picking against the Panthers because why wouldn't you? I didn't this week because I'm a little afraid of the new new coach when someone gets fired, the new quarterback bump you get, the emotional bump. And the Panthers have a good offensive line. I mean, they invested at the guards. I would love to have that offensive line for the Bears. And they actually have receivers. I mean, Deontay Johnson doesn't really get touchdowns, but he gets open. And Xavier Legette is solid. And Adam Thielen is good-ish. I mean, he's ancient, but he's good. Like, I don't know. I think the Panthers might actually come out and scare the Raiders a bit there. So I would stay away from that one.
Yeah, because I mean, the Raiders aren't exactly good.
Lions at Cardinals. Lions favored by 3. Marvin Harrison, doesn't matter that he ran 16 miles per hour, is good at football.
I think the Cardinals might take that.
I've been talking to some Lions fans this week, and they are scared.
I mean, I think it's a little bit of a different team than what we've been used to. Kyler's back, and he's playing some damn good football.
Yes. 49ers at Rams. Rams next Bears opponent. 49ers favored by 7. When I looked at this, it might be different. George Kittle now likely out also with a hamstring. That team is falling apart little by little. Deebo Samuel not playing. All that jazz.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I feel like it's been the 49ers haven't well, actually in week 1 they looked really good. But last week I think I was a little meh on them. I think they'll win though. I think the 49ers will probably still win.
Do they cover 7?
No. I think that's a division rivalry game. Those are always weird.
2 broken teams going against each other.
Yes.
A coccyx and bowl story. This is our bold predictions. I have, and this is just insanely bold just because I was feeling it today, Khalil Herbert gets 2 touchdowns.
You know what? I could see that.
They get down in the red zone. It's like 2nd and 6. Swift go to the bench, and it takes Khalil twice.
I'm gonna do another one there. If Roshan Johnson's healthy, he's gonna vulture one of those.
I can see that. I just think I said it earlier. I think they're both going to be more involved. Offensive player of the game. Who do you have?
It is going to be one DJ Moore. Because even if Caleb Williams doesn't throw for 200 yards, as long as DJ Moore gets like 80 or 90 of them and a score, that's going to matter for you.
And I think after the perception of him last game, the kind of man DJ is, right? That's not who he's not a pouty guy. He's a prideful guy. I think he's going to come out and give that his all. I don't think you're going to see those routes that I mentioned earlier that he had taken some time off. Like he has a solid game this week. Defensive player of the game. I say Jaquan Brisker. And the reason I said that is, while you're going to mainly have Kevin Byard be your right free safety who has to worry about the deep ball, I think you're going to have, just with the receivers they have, you're going to have Jaquan make some plays deep, but also we know that he can come up and fill the run pretty well. They're going to lean on Jonathan Taylor, and I think he's going to have to wear both hats, and at the end of the day, make a play, maybe an interception. I'll say that too. Jaquan Brisker interception.
I think, and I think I mentioned this last week, I think Kyler Gordon's finally going to he almost had it. He almost had that pick last week. I think he's everywhere right now. And I think that he's going to really pop out again. I think he's going to get himself a turnover this week. It's right there.
I don't know if they've blocked it well. Like, I feel like they also haven't been as creative with him as they were in the preseason. Like, I think they were more creative in the preseason with Kyler Gordon in like that second game they played than they have been in the regular season. So, like, I mean, where are some of the QB pressures and sacks and funky stuff that they did before? I want more of that. King of the North, aka MVP, aka the hopefully not Caleb Williams. As a reminder, we can only pick Caleb Williams for one game this season. So, are you going to use him this week?
No, I'm not going to. So I went with this last week. I don't think I'm gonna double up, but I think Jalen Johnson is going to be the guy. It's going to lock it down.
So between Jalen Johnson being the MVP and Kyler Gordon being the defensive player of the game, man, Anthony Richardson's having a bad day.
He's having an awful day.
I'm going to try to be consistent with mine and say Khalil Herbert. If he gets 2 touchdowns, like I said he would, you got to be MVP there. I mean, I don't see the Bears the way that they've been moving the ball, scoring like 24 points. And if he's already coming for 14 of them, then that's got to be a big chunk of it.
Yeah.
All right. That's all we got. Any last question, thoughts, concerns, feelings, tidings that you want to give Bears fans before we get out of here?
Run the ball. That's it.
I am going to parlay off of that. I am sick of, and it goes all the way back to 2018, when Chris Long talked about that Eagles-Bears game and said that the Bears' offensive line was soft and that we knew we had them. I'm sick of having a soft offensive line. I'm sick of having a soft team. You're the Chicago freaking Bears, monsters of the Midway, blue-collar town. Run the ball, establish a presence, take pressure off of Caleb. It's insane. Just, like, be better.
Yeah, just be better.
Have you thought about being better? All right, that is all. Enjoy. If you're going to watch that game tonight, enjoy. Hopefully, I would love the Patriots to win. I think that'd be fun. The Jets are gross. I hate every part of that team besides Garrett Wilson. Also, free Garrett Wilson. That's terrible. Tune in this Sunday. After the game, we will have Wear and Tear Bears post-game show with me and insert guest. I'm not sure who that is right now. I have to double check my form. We'll be going live right after the game. Good, win or lose, good or bad. Come in with all your happiness, your sadness, whatever happens post this game. Make sure you go watch Khari also and Jacob and Ryan over at Bears Over Beers. Great show, and I'm super glad that they're having a platform and forum to talk as well. Bear down, everyone.